Okay, so to understand psychology is to understand a person. We as human beings have been noted to take interests in other humans, which is a curiosity for how others function as well as ourselves. And this basic logic is what construed the idea of psychology. So, the word psychology comes from two Greek words mashed together. That's psyche, which means soul, life, and the mental state, and logia, which means the study of. So, while mentioning, on the topic of the Greeks, the roots of psychology can be traced back to them, despite how it's a fairly modern practice. So, basically, they believed in a concept called mens sana in corpore sano, or healthy mind, healthy body, is like the basic way to put it. So, they were the first to recognize mental illness as being influenced by physical conditions, and an early diagnosis and treatment that stemmed from the ancient Greeks was hysteria, which is prevalent today. Basically, their treatment was like taking a relaxing bath, so kind of like that whole self-care thing that's going on now, that was definitely prevalent back then. They had this whole thing that revolved around like positivity, reflecting back onto a person, kind of like how what you put out, you get back in. So the whole bad thing was probably put out from that. So that though that seems like totally kind of normal, they did have like this one kind of diagnosis to it, not diagnosis, but like treatment. And what they would do is like they'd bloodlet you basically because of that whole bad blood, like, oh, obviously you're sad, so that means your insides are messed up, so they would do that, which isn't good. But they had tons of philosophers that were focused on basic aspects of psychology, like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They were all known to bring focus to topics such as pleasure, pain, knowledge, motivation, rationality, and mental illness. So as I said before, they acknowledged how positive reinforcement was a liable aid. So, more modern concepts of psychology started to become prevalent within the 19th century, when it became consciously researched in 1879. So it was now a topic that it was real. It wasn't just like, somebody wouldn't be like, you're making that up. It was a liable source of information to describe what was going on. So this is due to the German scientist William Wundt. I'm totally butchering his name, but basically he founded the first laboratory to be specified in the study of psychology, which is pretty neat. During this time, functionalism was also brought to light by William James, and this focused on the actual functions of the mind, as opposed to structuralism, which was founded by Edward B. Tichin, and described how to understand the mind. You'd need to better understand the underlying parts. So he was basically saying if you wanted to understand why somebody was having actions, you'd have to understand basically past parts that would reflect upon the brain. So take, for example, a sociopath. Sociopaths aren't born, they're created. That would be following structuralism, if that makes any sense. But from the 19th century, psychology has only gained traction, becoming a guide for human behavior and navigation, especially in our society today. But though still widely unexplored, it offers a diagnosis to the most deep-rooted problems, providing it to now be one of the most detrimental aspects of medicine. And it's keep getting better, because we now have neuropsychology, which is understanding how the brain's like hooked up to everything else and how that creates a chemical reaction within people. Dopamine can be seen as that, serotonin levels all increase because of your brain. And that's all psychology. So that's just a brief little glimpse into the origins. Thanks for listening.